Welcome to the Lord and Richards Show, a program that will enable you to become more financially independent and prosperous from a biblical point of view. Tune in each week to learn how to prosper through good markets and bad. Now, here's our co-hosts, Colin Richards, your biblical investment advisor, and Dylan Schoonover.
Welcome into the Lord and Richards Show. My name is Dylan Schoonover, joined alongside CEO and founder Colin Richards. Colin, it's great to have you here today. Number one thing searched on the internet for retirees as they head into retirement is Social Security. And I was going to tell a joke about Gen Z and Social Security, but they're probably not going to get it. So we'll go back to those that are in retirement or close to retirement who will be getting some level of Social Security. It's hard to know when to take it, what to do with it, how to maximize it. So start out with, just talking to us about all the different elements of it and how we get through navigating the Social Security maze, if you will, because it is such a hotly searched topic for those that are in or near retirement.
So as a result of people capitalizing on Social Security, they tend to major on the defects. And the defects are real. We understand that as our population ages, we're drawing more heavily upon Social Security as a resource. But remembering that it was intended to, in essence, replace pensions for those who didn't have them. So it's part of a overall strategy for income. But today, it can't be your sole source of income. We're going to have to blend that together within the context of an entire plan to make sure that you've got all of your needs supported in retirement.
Sure, and the typical search, the number one search is when to take it. And it's almost an impossible question for you to answer without knowing when somebody's going to die. But you don't know that, so help us out. How do you use a guide? What is your team doing to kind of determine when it makes sense for people to take it?
Well, it's kind of funny because in the early years, Social Security, your first retirement date, which is 62 now, was actually after people's life expectancy. So talk about a great system, right? You pour money into it and nobody can ever take it out except those who outlive their life expectancy.
When do you think the government realized that and was like, uh-oh?
Well, I just remember Ida Mae was the first one to get her Social Security check and to draw upon that. And now, since then, there have been tens and hundreds of millions of people. And the system's not going away. So I want to allay that fear right off the bat. They're not getting rid of it. That would be political suicide for whatever administration or Congress oversaw that process. But what they tend to do is they tend to change the rules of the game. The Social Security rule book is actually thicker than our IRS tax code. So figuring out how to maximize your Social Security check or optimize, as I refer to it, is a big challenge. Maximization is easy. Maximize means wait until the latest date that you could take it, when you turn 70. For some people, that is the best strategy because maybe they don't need it. If you don't need to draw on Social Security, don't simply take it because you're worried it's going to go away, right? I'm going to get it while the getting's good, while I can still get something out of it before the system goes to pot. The system is just going to continually be tweaked to adjust for longer and longer lifespans that Americans are enjoying. And as a result, longer and longer periods that Social Security benefit has to last.
And Social Securities are not meant to be your only source of income in retirement, right?
Right.
Some people do kind of look at it like that sometimes.
Well, and you've mentioned the faith-based aspect of Lord and Richards. I am a pastor actually, and I've served a lot of widows over the years. And I had widows who would tell me, now, Pastor, I was on a fixed income. I'm on a fixed income. And that's usually what we're describing is somebody that's living exclusively on Social Security because they didn't have savings. There's not a lot we can do in terms of planning there, except to say, well, wait as long as you possibly can before you retire. But for those who have saved and built up a portfolio, that's a second leg of a three-legged stool. And unfortunately, the government views that three-legged stool, literally they've studied and said, well, you got Social Security, you got your portfolio, and then you got work that makes up the other leg. Well, right. That doesn't sound like retirement. That sounds like I'm still having to work. So what we need to do is maximize the Social Security and maximize the portfolio withdrawal so that you're not having to go back to work during retirement.
That makes complete sense to me. But, when you get to the point you're like, okay, turn it on, don't turn it on. There's a lot of different factors that weigh into it with your investments. If you have pensions, if you don't have pensions, how do you go about when you're having that conversation across the table with a client and saying, okay, I think this is time for you, or maybe just one of the spouses. Like that's the other factor too, is if both spouses are going to be drawing, like, well, let's turn yours on, let's leave yours off. Like, how do we determine these things?
I know, it kind of takes me back to that commercial, Calgon, take me away, you know, just all these different things coming in. And by the way, I think that's before your time.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're referring to there, but Calgon, take me away. I'm thinking of like, come sail away, come sail away, come sail with me. That's what my brain went to.
But this is what happens. People get really nervous about it. Oh, I don't want to screw this up. This is the one decision, you know, I'm going to make about Social Security. I get one shot. Well, actually, there is a 12-month do-over. So if you accidentally start too early and you realize, oh, I should have waited, then you can do a do-over within the first 12 months. But after that, you're on the hook. And so we want to get this right. And it's a composite of many different factors. There is no calculator online that will do the work that needs to be done. Now, we use calculators. We subscribe to many of the things that we've learned from Lawrence Kotlikoff. You can check him out on PBS. Ask Larry. He's our nation's foremost expert on Social Security. That doesn't work for Social Security. But in spite of all the calculators that can be developed, there is no calculator that will take into consideration your goals, dreams, values, your tax considerations, the potential for pension income, the potential for real estate income, when to take out the portfolio income from your IRA first, or your Roth first, or your 401k first. There's no calculator that will do that. That's going to require advice. So this is a very, very, very personalized date that we're going to set together with you as our client.
I'm going to ask you a curveball question. Ooh. We'll see what you do with this. It's not the fastball coming down the middle. It's the curveball you didn't see coming. But is there a potential pathway with the tariff money that's being generated? It's talking about reducing the deficit. Possibly, you know, Trump floated the fact that, well, we might even give out, you know, rebate checks basically of $2,000. Is it something where we've talked about Social Security potentially being limited in the future, not going away, but maybe a slight reduction? It's kind of like when a rewards program is built, and there's it starts out great, and then the airline takes away things, and they take away things. Kind of the same thing with Social Security. Could money generated from tariffs, as the deficits maybe potentially shrink for the first time, and who knows how long if that happens, could that impact Social Security in some way?
Well, I love the rose-colored glasses you're looking at the world through.
I'm an optimist.
But we actually have precedent for taking money that is a result of the natural resources or other income. For example, in Alaska, people participate in the bounty of Alaska's oil reserves, and there are actually rebates that come back to residents there. And so I would say the precedent is out there to take money that is freed up by one good decision by the government and take that over to another program that's limited and beef up that program. So there's a precedent for that. I would say that would take a very bold, courageous individual and Congress together with them to do something like that, simply because special interests are all grasping for every dollar. You know, if your thing is not Social Security, but it's research, or if your thing is, you know, preserving our natural resources, or whatever your thing is, those people are all clamoring over that dollar. And so you have to get widespread agreement to take dollars that were freed up in one area and use them for an entirely different area.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that disposition. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about both spousal benefits and survivorship benefits. We're going to go over those when we get back into Social Security in just a moment.
You're watching The Lord and Richards Show, a program that can help you become more financially independent. Tune in to learn how you could become prosperous during good times and bad.
Welcome back for joining us here at the Lord and Richards Show. We're pleased to have Colin Richards, our CEO and founder of Lord and Richards, joining us, talking about everyone's favorite, Social Security, especially those that are in or near getting Social Security. They want to know what to do with it, how to take it, when to take it. And so earlier in the break, we talked about kind of the high-level components of it. Now let's dive in a little deeper and talk about spousal and survivor benefits. So how do these each work? And when do you get them? And can you get them from multiple spouses if you had multiple spouses? There's lots of options here, Colin. What's going on?
Well, we teach a lot about this publicly, Dylan, and so I've got tons of stories around it, but for the sake of time, I'll tell you that Elizabeth Taylor was a great example, as she had many men in her life, but as a person who divorced these men, And in some cases, we're looking at Social Security. Could she have taken a benefit from them, right? This is all hypothetical. We don't really know exactly her finances, but we need to be with somebody at least 10 years in order to be able to derive a spousal benefit. Now, if you're widowed, that doesn't apply, right? So if you were married just a short time, you're eligible for that. So there's a lot of compassion around the widow's benefits, but when it comes to drawing spousal benefits off of an ex, let's say you were married only 5 years, then that's not going to work. But if you were able to stay married to multiple spouses for 10 years or more, you could actually take your pick.
There you go.
And so,
oh, can you really?
Yeah, the goal is to take the highest one.
So marry for money the first time and marry for love the second time. That's your advice?
That's what we're going with? One path. That's the Dylan path.
No, it's not the Dylan path. Hold on now.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to your wife about that. But yeah, but of course the goal is, my wife and I have had the pleasure of being married for many, many years, 33 years now, coming up on our 34th year. And the goal is that you go hand in hand off into retirement together. And that's the more frequent situation that we're dealing with. Okay, so we've been married for enough years that, we can now take advantage of this. How do we do that? How do we combine the two, the husband and the wife? And what I'm going to speak about is the higher earning spouse and the lower earning spouse. So I don't make that a generic thing, husband or wife, because I have and serve clients where actually the wife may be the individual with the higher earnings and the husband had the lower earnings, just either because of the job type, maybe they're self-employed. So the self-employed individuals tend to put less into the program than people who have an outside job. So whatever the reason, the higher earner is the first person we want to focus on, and we don't want to take their check a day before you need it, okay? So just taking it early because you think the Social Security system may go to pot is a bad strategy, okay? It's here to stay, it's going to be with us. So don't take it early unless you need to take it early. And once we get to full retirement age, FRA, or 67 years old, now we unlock full spousal benefits. So if you take your benefit early as a higher wage earner, your spouse's benefits are going to be automatically reduced. And I see often that a spouse has not earned enough during their own working career to reach that 50% of their other spouse's benefits. So the higher earner, let's say if they're getting $3,000 a month and the lower earner is only getting $1,200 a month, now we need to do some planning because a full spousal benefit is actually half of the higher earner. So we could boost that from $1,200 to $1,500 depending on when we take that benefit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if you take it before full retirement age, it reduces by 8% per year. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have a percentage reduction for every year that the higher earner takes it early, as well as the spouse who takes their benefit takes it early. So you have kind of advanced math going on. You have two reductions. But if both can make it to 67, then you can get that full 50% benefit if it will increase your benefit beyond your own personal benefit.
And if you wait, it goes up an additional 8% until 70, is that correct?
So the 8% actually that's occurring if you're age 67 and you say, I don't need it, Colin, I'm still working, I'm happy to do that, I would say don't take it just to take it. Because each year that you wait to withdraw, you get an 8% simple compounded bump. So from 67 to 68, 69, and 70. So that's 3 years of simple, not compounded, but simple increases, or a 24% increase in your benefit just for waiting.
Yeah, that's a big deal, especially if you have life expectancy in your family to say 90 or something, because you may have an extra 20 years there.
Yeah, and even though it's a simple, not compounded, I made a mistake there, but even though it's simple, most people would be happy to get an 8% return on their investment and increase their income by that amount each year, if you don't need it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that. Certainly, knowing when to take it is not an easy thing if you don't know when you're going to die.
Yeah, the old crystal ball, as you said at the beginning, hasn't really helped out a lot. But here's the tendency, okay? Most of our clients that we're working with have done well and saved. And if you've held down a good job and you've been a part of the American healthcare system, if you've taken reasonable care of yourself, if you, on top of that, maybe have an education, all of those things are contributing factors, wealth, education, access to healthcare, in expanding your life expectancy. And so if you're going to live longer, the greater danger is not taking it too late, the greater danger is taking it too early and therefore reducing your future benefits.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, the one other element that we haven't factored in is when you start turning this on, it can have a taxation issue inside your portfolio if you haven't done proper planning. So how do you guys plan with the clients that come across, your front door and into your front door and into the office to make sure and say, okay, we've got this for you guys. Here's what we're seeing. Here's the needs you have. How do you go through that with them?
So yeah, that three-letter word tax is something that we're very tuned in about. And we don't let it get ahead of living, though, because there are some clients who will be paralyzed by the reality that if they take anything from anywhere, they're going to get taxed on it unless they've taken advantage of tax-free investment tools, which we can do. But assuming they've got money that's coming out taxable from other sources, the more money you earn over and above your Social Security check, the more likely that your Social Security check itself will be taxed. So the timing of starting your withdrawals from your IRAs and 401ks along with your Social Security is very important. And it's not that we want to restrain your lifestyle. Oh, don't take out more money because you're going to get taxed. No, if you need it, take it. We're always going to put supporting your life as a priority over saving on taxes. But having a thoughtful strategy in advance about when to take from where, whether it's Social Security or your portfolio or pensions or real estate, having a thoughtful strategy in advance can potentially save you tens of thousands of dollars in taxes.
Oh, that's very good advice, Colin. We appreciate that. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about pensions and how those of you that still have them, what to do with them and how to maximize them.
You're watching The Lord and Richards Show, a program that can help you become more financially independent. Tune in to learn how you could become prosperous during good times and bad.
Welcome back from the break. My name is Dylan Schoonover. I am joined by Colin Richards, our CEO and founder, and we are closing out today's episode on Social Security and pensions, talking about just that, the second one, pensions. Not everybody has one, but boy, if you do, it's sure nice. How do you go about maximizing your pension?
Well, pensions are awesome, first of all, if you do have them. But the good news is that we can also help you create one. So pensions do not have to come from your employers. You can actually create your own.
Like a synthetic pension.
Synthetic. I don't like that word. It sounds like neoprene. But I do like words like private or personal or custom pension. Yeah.
Okay.
So in a traditional pension, though, that you receive either from the government or a corporation, they have been setting aside money for you all these years. And there's a lot of rules and regulations around that. And it's called a defined benefit program. It means that you know from the beginning what you're going to get out of that program. Now, they have to operate by very closely watched rules and regulations. But optimally, that pension holds up even through market turbulence, and you get paid a guaranteed income for life. That's great. There are choices, though, that most people have to make. And one of those is, when do I start taking it? Course. So when do I choose to retire? One of the things our team of nerds at Lord & Richards, our certified financial planners, are going to do is they're going to get in there and help you figure out, when can I safely retire and what is my pension going to be, and is that the right amount for me to make it through? But then there's another very important decision that unfortunately often gets made with just a checkbox, and that is, am I going to take a pension that only lasts as long as I do? Am I going to have part of it continue for my spouse, or am I going to have all of it continue for my spouse? And a lot of times the thinking is a little short-sighted because you got a few magic boxes there and you just got to check one, and the biggest one is always, it's only for my life. But that may not be the best choice.
Boy, that just seems stressful to me, because you've spent all this time, earning this, basically, loyalty to a company, gaining it. And then it comes down to like one moment. And if you don't have proper financial guidance around you, it could be a big miss, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what often happens, fortunately it's not the majority of the time, but frequently we'll see people come in, they've already made that decision before getting any advice, and then we just work around it, right? So if you've already made that decision, if you're already in a place where you selected a single life of income on the assumption that that was your best choice, then don't worry about it. I don't want people to panic. But I also want to say, if you're in a position to make that choice, very often the best decision is to have some, or even better, all of that pension continue forward with your spouse, or what we call a 100% joint option. The reason this is important is a lot of the pensions that I see are on the husband's side of the balance sheet. It's not always the case, but I would say the majority are. And guess what? When it comes to life expectancy,
he's dying.
He's dying first. Yeah, he's a goner. And a couple of things happen then if that's the case. If he had the pension and it's single life, and now she lives on, she loses the smaller Social Security check. If they both had a Social Security check, let's say hers was spousal, we'll just use $1,500 a month, and his was $3,000, and then let's say he had a $2,000 pension, so now we got $3,000 plus her $1,500, that's $4,500, plus a $2,000, that's $6,500.
Sounds pretty good.
Sounds like a comfortable life to me. Well, he passes away, and it's literally cut in more than half, because you're going to lose, or almost half, so you're going to lose that $1,500, yeah, more than half, that $1,500 and that $2,000. So you're going to lose $3,500 of that total check. And now the widow moves forward with lower income and potentially a higher tax bracket because they're a widow and they fall into the single brackets, which are not favorable.
Wow, that would be quite the situation. If you were a person that had an option to work at a job that had a pension, how much would you weigh into that on whether you were taking a job or not, based on the fact that it did have a pension in its offering?
Well, I think that's a big decision, but if we still had pensions around today, they're a great benefit, and I think anybody that could get a job with mostly the government has that area of security that others are going to lack, because 401ks came along as kind of the new solution, but there's so much variability in that. Do you save the most that you could? Will you get a benefit out of your 401k that's equal to or greater than a pension? And what about the matching policies of your company, which can change? They can increase it, they can decrease it, they can eliminate it.
Yeah.
And then in the investment choices, have you made wise choices so that you're not wiped out on the doorstep of your retirement by a market loss?
Yeah, those are definitely not guaranteed. We recently saw an article that Sherwin-Williams was suspending their entire 401k program, which is not it's a big company. It's not a pension, but it's still interesting that you would think something like that is just a given, but it's not.
It's not. And another question I get a lot, Dylan, is, okay, I have a choice at the end of my career to either take a lump sum, so a pot of gold, or the income. It's kind of like if you win the lottery. I've never had that pleasure. But
have you ever played?
I've actually never played the lottery.
You can't play. If you don't play, you can't win, Colin. That's what we say.
I was there when somebody asked my pastor years ago, so pastor, I know you preach against the lottery, but if I win the lottery, what should I do? And he said, give it to the church. But, it's kind of like that decision. People say, oh, that pot of gold looks good, but then it would be nice to be secure for life with the annuity payout, they call it at the lottery level. Well, the pension, it's the same question. Well, we can actually do an analysis for you where you can determine, is it better for me to take their pension, or what if Lord Richards creates a private guaranteed pension for me? Could I get even more out of that and provide more benefit to the family? And it's kind of 50-50. Some people come in and the lump sum is enough that we can actually improve on the pension. Others, they come in and we say, hey, look, that lump sum's great, but you'll get a lot more income over your lifespan by sticking with your company's pension.
Yeah, so if we've got listeners that are listening to this that are working at Lockheed or working somewhere else, and they're in the midst of making a pension decision, you would strongly advocate that they come in and have a conversation with us before choosing one of those options, right?
Oh, yes. A lot of financial advisors don't like to work with engineers. I love them. I love their sciencey mind and all that. And what we found is that this ends up being more of a mathematical decision. If we can take the emotion out of it, we can literally build a plan that shows, okay, here's what happens if you take your pension as an income stream, or here's what happens if it comes out as a lump sum.
Certainly seems like a nice problem to have, that you would have an extra source of income that a lot of people don't have the affordability of these days.
Well, the cool thing, Dylan, is even if you aren't one of the privileged few that have pensions, my dad got two by working for both the Air Force and for local law enforcement.
And 2 gold watches.
No gold watches. That's the thing of the past. But for those of us who don't have access to that, if you've saved well and built up a nest egg, you can actually turn that into a personal pension and place it in safe, guaranteed, abundant income-generating sources that may potentially give you more benefit than you would have gotten from a pension anyway.
Well, that's super helpful for, I think, everybody listening and watching, is that Lord & Richards has a solution. Even if you don't have a pension built in and you weren't a government employee or potentially working for Lockheed or one of the other companies, they're still kind enough to actually have pensions offered. So you want to put a bow on it with Social Security and pensions of kind of summarizing how we choose when to take these things?
Yeah, so go back to that stool, Dylan. So everything needs to work together. One leg of that stool is Social Security. And threw out the idea of optimize. What optimize means is not maximize, which means take it as late as you can. That's often a good strategy, but optimize means blend that with your other income sources and figure out what puts the most money in your pocket over your lifespan. And then blending in your portfolio, let's create a private pension that supports, together with Social Security, all of your basic needs, and then have another fund that adds on top of that additional funds for proactive health care, for additional trips and vacations, or just increasing your overall life, quality of life.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Colin, thank you so much for all the insight today. We've really appreciated having you guys listen and watch the show. Tune in next week. We have another great edition coming, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. That's 720-372-0400 for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Or check us out online at lordandrichards.com.
Take the first step toward securing your financial future. Request an appointment today. Whether you're planning for retirement, managing your wealth, or optimizing your business finances, we're ready to help you achieve your goals. Visit us online at lordandrichards.com for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Investment advisory services offered through Lord & Richards Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor.